So I'm going to now move to the Q&A. And Rich, looks like I think this first question that come in, I'm going to send your way. And it says, what are the top 3 client mistakes you see in developing a smart analytics strategy and building high-impact dashboards that people will use regularly?
All right. The top 3 mistakes. So I would say the first is forgetting to get the end user's explicit input and feedback. Creating dashboards in the vacuum of thinking what someone wants and needs is very different than engaging them in the process. So I think that's probably one of the big mistakes I see, is not getting it in front of the people that actually use it and get their feedback so they're on board with it. Another is not ensuring the data set is accurate. I just talked about that. If you don't have reliable and properly updated data, you're giving misinformation, and that's actually more dangerous than no information. And I think the other that I see often is onto the fact of that integration of embedding the dashboards in the user environment. I see so often that there's a great dashboard, but it requires someone to go to a dashboard application to view it and not put it in my flow so it's contextual for me. So I'd say those are probably the big 3 things: not getting the user input, the data set, getting it accurate, and not making the dashboard embedded so someone they don't even have to know Wave exists in this scenario. It should just be there for them.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, looking at the next question is, how do you know if you are ready to use AI and machine learning methods to solve CRM business problems? I think I'll take this one, Rich.
I was going to say that one's yours.
No worries. I'm going to echo the first point that Rich said. First, you've got to have sufficient data volume, or you can't apply these methods. Second point is you've got to have solid accuracy of data, and it needs to be representative, i.e. statistically valid. So we know right away upon plug-in what the status is. I just want to underscore that point. And sometimes when we plug in, we then need to go back to say you need data cleansing, right? And we knock on Rich's door. So you do have to have the sufficient data volume. Many vendors don't tell you how much data you need to drive enablement. They just are really kind of keen to get you up and running. And we now have learned that you have to have at least 2,000 to 3,000 historical wins and losses to solve a predictive forecast or predictive opportunity scoring. If you take a subset of fields, i.e. in the sales case, maybe top 5, you can certainly put a score on it, but it doesn't necessarily have any predictive relevancy to predict an outcome. It's like a subset of an AI algo that's incomplete. So I think you could probably look at us as AI deep versus AI light. And also highly customized and relevant to your company versus a fully scalable model. So you need to really understand what you're buying and signing up for. The other point I would mention is that to solve a predictive churn problem, you need not just the data that's within the sales environment, but you need to really step back and source other data sets that could come from your billing systems, can come from your call center system. So solving predictive churn can't just be from your service tickets alone. That certainly gives you some history, not saying that that's not valid, but there's a bigger dynamic going on. So again, you've got to understand the business process architecture to be able to really make the right and design the right solution sets. And I see a lot of people tackling part of the subsets but not understanding what the whole elephant looks like. And, that's, I don't believe, a good thing. Okay, the next question that's just come in is, what are the right skills to take advantage of analytics and data sciences internally, or are these expert areas hard to find or be outsourced if not a company's core competency to manage? Rich?
Oh, I love that one. So this, I think, goes back to my comments about the self-service does not equal do-it-yourself. Obviously, I'm biased on this, but I think it has borne out throughout our experience that it's valuable. So Wave provides this great opportunity, but the one-time implementation that's required, the skill sets there, they're just not part of the normal skill set of a Salesforce administrator. So Wave was built as a separate platform. It requires lots of JSON customization, and it actually has a brand new query language called SACL, Salesforce Analytics Query Language. So that's not needed anywhere else within the Salesforce ecosystem. So the clients that don't already have a data science staff, they find it much more efficient to use an outside specialist like Provide Insight or SalesChoice, where we've made that investment to learn all these nuances, and when you customize something, what it's going to break somewhere else and how to fix that. So I think it's just, you know, those clients that don't have that internal data science world, and it's not worth their one-time learning, it's so much more efficient to use an outside specialist. And that's not to be reliant on us forever. That's just to configure the initial setup and then get their internal Salesforce administrators trained so they become self-sufficient. It's so much easier within Wave to maintain and make modifications and extend existing dashboards than to start from scratch. And starting from scratch is the standard Wave license comes with some templates, but that to me is scratch. Doing all the binding of the dashboard, so as you change one number, it flows through all the related dashboards and all those customizations. It really is a one-time learning. It's the perfect scenario. Use an expert, help them train it. It just takes a couple weeks. It's not very expensive. Gets you into the market much quicker than if you try to do it yourself, and with a much better end result, because we're taking the best practices that we've learned across all of our clients and getting you to the endpoint much quicker and I think much better. So I'm very passionate about that, as you can tell, and I think this is one of those great reasons to use a short-term outside expert to help you get set up.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, so the next question is, what are your top 3 recommendations to guide a company to be world-class in advanced analytics and to your earlier framework, building killer dashboards? Well, I think the first point, I'll take this one, Rich, and I just want to echo the point about the depth of skills that are needed, and we've all invested in certified Wave experts. I've learned another thing through this journey. Those Wave engineers, unless they're a strategic thinker, aren't that good. I just want to be brutally clear. And what I mean by that is there's a skill set involved on the business strategic side to think through the business logic and have the business acumen. We've made sure that our Wave engineers are a little bit unique, where they all have MBAs as well. So it's not just a pure technical skill where you have to learn the different syntax, etc. They also have the facilitation leadership expertise. Now that's a unique blend. You don't find that very often. So more often that you need a strategic architect person that guides through that discovery, gets the business language mapped, the use cases, and then that often flows to a Wave engineer to look at, with those KPIs you've identified, where the data is within the companies, whether it's in the Salesforce environment. Obviously, if it's Wave, hopefully some of it's there for sure, but Wave can also work independently too, right? So there is the mapping there, but the expertise on the different skills, and it's certainly not a systems administrator role in the roles that we've defined at this point. I don't think that would be a good place or a home for advanced analytics. The other point I would say is the design of the dashboards. People are not focusing on the critical few versus the critical many. Humans cannot digest more than a few frames, so be clear about the top metrics even at the operational, the top operational metrics that are the most important, and then you can drill down from there. But you know, if it's not easy to consume, you end up building temples that nobody visits necessarily, and that's not a good thing. So the whole thought process around how you can build in the adoption and the tightness back into the human performance side is an area in the change management domain that I still see things to business technology process-led with not enough expertise on the communication, the human alignment, change management side. So that's something that we're starting to bulk up more in, at least advising our clients that the processes need to be there and in place to be able to drive the adoption. And also Rich made the point earlier, skilling the right resource to actually drive the sustainability with the right profile. And obviously the other approach is to potentially consider outsourcing that with qualified experts. So Rich, a new question just came in that I'm going to send to you. Is can most end users create their own dashboards in Wave, or would they have to know JSON and other tools?
Yeah, so they definitely have to know JSON, and they have to learn the SACL query language, which is very similar to SQL, but there are nuances that you have to go through that learning period. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier, is those are one-time learnings that, frankly, you typically won't have to use ever again. The nice thing is that once they're set up for your company and customized for you and integrated, teaching a Salesforce administrators is easy to do for modifying dashboards. So once you have your template, learning the couple things that can be done in JSON for modifications is trainable in a very short period of time for a Salesforce administrators. And just make sure I was being clear. So the simple dashboards can be done without JSON and SACL. That comes out of the box with Wave. They have some templates. But if you're trying to customize it, and especially if you have custom objects within Salesforce, you quickly have to be JSON and SACL experience to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a very key point. If you've got a relatively small business that's not very mature, probably out of the box will have sufficient insights on the standard patterns that you might pick up at a minimal subset out of Wave, but would never meet the requirements of a mid or large enterprise unless you were in a baby pilot in a peekaboo.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the out of the box is really for if you use Salesforce platform out of the box and don't do any custom objects, then the Wave out of the box will work for you. There are just very few entities that I know of that meet that requirement.
Okay, so I think we're almost out of time, so I'm going to move to, just some very brief wrap-up comments. First of all, thank you all of you for attending today's webinar session brought to you by SalesChoice and our partner Provide Insight and through our Predictive World Leadership Educational Forum. And thank you very much, Rich, as always, for sharing your experience with all of us today and the rich stories. It's always a pleasure having you. Just send the sunshine from San Diego our way. I'm just going to promote our next session in June. I'm really excited that we're able to bring the head of analytics and chief data scientist from Zora. If you're not familiar with Zora, Zora is one of the top leaders in the industry in providing subscription relationship management solutions to both billing and finance for subscription-based models. So those that are tracking MRRs and you need to track pricing, packaging, selling your products, and keeping track of all the dynamics in a subscription model. They're certainly one of the top players, and I believe they're going public relatively soon too, or getting ready. Maybe keep a note on that point. So on June 21st, we're going to have a discussion there, going to cover some really interesting topics, mainly on churn analytics. And we're going to dive more into the kind of insights that you can derive from churn insights. And one of the reasons I really wanted to get Dr. Carl Gold, the Chief Data Scientist, to speak to all of you is because he has done an amazing thing. He's written a subscriber index report, and he's correlated a number of dynamics on the growth in the market, and he's coined a concept of what are all the right metrics in subscription-based models to really drive optimal performance. And he's tracked thousands of companies. So he's got a really interesting perspective, and also in terms of how you should look at data science and So it's kind of a refreshing view as well. So that's what's coming up in June. And so just a final comment, thanks again for attending our Predictive World Forum series on predictive analytics, our educational division at SalesChoice, and we're all committed to help you see more and at the end of the day win more. Your learning interest is appreciated, and we look forward to your continued participation in our community of advanced analytics and business professionals committed to business excellence. And I would have to underscore that with the whole reason that this is important, and only important if you get actionable insights. If you don't move people to action, then all of the hard work is in vain because nobody's listening. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cindy Gordon and Rich Benci signing off.